Imagine you remember everything, not just the big moments. Everything. Every conversation you have ever had, word for word. Every face you have ever seen. Every meal, every argument, every embarrassment. Every ordinary Tuesday afternoon that everyone else forgot the moment it ended. You remember all of it in perfect detail forever. That sounds like a superpower. It is not. The real answer to what it would mean to never forget anything is far stranger than you think. Because this is not a story about memory. It is a story about why forgetting is one of the most important things your brain does, and what happens when it stops. There are real people who cannot forget. They are not fictional. They are not the result of a movie plot. They have a condition that researchers call Highly Superior Autobiographical Memory, sometimes abbreviated HSAM. And the handful of people in the world who have it have taught scientists more about the nature of memory, identity, and the human mind than almost anything else in the history of neuroscience. The first person formally identified with this condition was a woman named Jill Price. In 2000, she wrote a letter to neuroscientist James McGaw at the University of California, Irvine, and told him something she had never told anyone outside her family. She remembered everything that had ever happened to her. Every day of her life since she was 14 years old. Every single one. She could tell you what day of the week any date fell on. She could tell you what she was doing, what she was wearing, what the weather was like, what was on the news. Not because she had studied it. Because she could not forget it. McGaw, one of the world's leading experts on memory, did not believe her at first. He spent years testing her, throwing random dates at her and checking her answers against historical records. She was right every time. Not almost every time. Every time. And she was not happy about it. This is the first thing that surprises people about HSAM. The people who have it are not grateful. They are not performing tricks at parties, delighted by their gift. Most of them describe their memory as a burden. Jill Price called it a curse. She described living with perfect autobiographical memory as like watching a split screen constantly playing in her mind. The present moment on one side, the past on the other, always running, always there, impossible to pause or turn off. She could not let go of anything. Every fight she had ever had with anyone she loved replayed at full emotional intensity, as fresh as the day it happened. Every embarrassment was permanent. Every regret was present tense. Every loss remained as raw as the moment it occurred. Forgetting, she came to understand, was not a failure of the mind. It was a mercy. To understand why, you need to understand what memory is actually for. And the answer is not what most people assume. Most people think of memory as a recording, a faithful archive of what happened. Something like a library or a video file where the past is stored and can be retrieved. This is almost entirely wrong. Your memory is not a recording. It is a reconstruction. Every time you remember something, your brain does not play back a stored file. It rebuilds the memory from fragments, from associated emotions, from context, from what you currently know and believe. This means every memory you have is slightly different from the last time you remembered it. Memories are not static. They are living things that change every time you access them. The neuroscientist Elizabeth Loftus spent her career documenting exactly how malleable human memory is, and her research showed that memories can be altered, contaminated, and even entirely invented, and the person experiencing them cannot tell the difference between a real memory and a false one. Your brain does not remember the past. It tells a story about it. And here is the crucial part. The story it tells is edited. Deliberately, systematically, at a neurological level. Your brain does not just forget randomly. It forgets selectively. It keeps what is emotionally significant, what is useful for predicting the future, what is relevant to your current goals and identity. And it discards the rest. The extraordinary, relentless, invisible work of forgetting is what allows your brain to function at all. Jorge Luis Borges, the Argentine writer, imagined a character in a short story called Funes the Memorious. A man who after an accident could forget nothing. Every leaf on every tree. Every cloud he had ever seen. Every moment of every day in perfect, total recall. And what Borges understood, writing in 1944, is what neuroscience has since confirmed. Funes could not think. Not really. Because thinking requires abstraction. It requires the ability to take specific experiences and generalize from them, to form categories, to recognize patterns, to understand that a dog you have never seen before is still a dog. But if you remember every dog you have ever encountered in perfect individual detail, with no ability to blur the edges and merge the experiences into a concept, you cannot generalize. You are trapped in a world of specifics with no way to step back and see the pattern. Forgetting is not the enemy of intelligence. It is the prerequisite for it. The people with HSAM confirm this in a different way. Researchers including Craig Stark at the University of California, Irvine, have studied their brains extensively and found something unexpected. Their superior memory does not make them better at everything. It does not make them more intelligent in measurable terms. It does not make them better at learning new skills or solving problems. In several studies, HSAM subjects performed similarly to controls on standard memory and cognitive tests. Their extraordinary ability was specific, autobiographical, episodic, about their own personal past, and it did not confer the general advantages you might expect a perfect memory to provide. What it did confer was a different relationship to time. People with HSAM report that the past feels as present as the present. The emotional weight of old events does not diminish. There is no psychological distance, no sense of something being over. One subject described it as living inside a perpetual present that contains all of your past simultaneously. Not remembering the past, living in it. This sounds poetic until you understand what it means for the mind. One of the key functions of normal memory is something psychologists call adaptive forgetting. The idea that as time passes, the emotional intensity of memories naturally decreases. This is not a bug. It is a feature. It is what allows you to move on. It is what allows you to have arguments with people you love and then, weeks later, remember that you argued without re-experiencing the full emotional weight of it. It is what allows grief to slowly transform from unbearable to survivable. It is what allows you to stop being 22 years old in your head and actually grow into the person you are now. Without adaptive forgetting, you do not grow. You accumulate. Several people with HSAM report significant rates of depression, anxiety, and obsessive thinking. The intrusive memories do not respect the present moment. You can be sitting with someone you love in a moment of genuine happiness and be simultaneously pulled back into a painful memory from years ago with full emotional force. The ability to be present, to actually inhabit the current moment, depends partly on the brain's ability to quiet the past. And for people with HSAM, that quieting mechanism is broken. Sleep is one of the primary ways your brain processes and consolidates memory. During sleep, particularly during the slow wave and REM stages, the brain replays experiences, strengthens important connections, and prunes unnecessary ones. It is essentially running an overnight editing process, deciding what to keep in high resolution and what to compress or discard. This process is not passive. It is active, selective, and deeply intelligent. When it is disrupted, memory quality suffers significantly. But the inverse is also true. A brain that cannot complete this pruning process, that cannot discard, would be overwhelmed. The filing system would fill up not with important things but with everything, equally weighted, equally present. There is a reason your brain spends a third of your life unconscious doing maintenance on your memories. The work of forgetting is enormous. There is another dimension to this that almost nobody discusses. Identity itself depends on forgetting. The person you are right now is not a sum of everything that has ever happened to you. It is a curated version, a narrative that your brain has constructed by selecting certain experiences, giving them meaning, and allowing others to fade. The story you tell yourself about who you are is built from remembered peaks and edited valleys. Remove the editing and you do not get a more accurate self. You get a more fragmented one. A self that cannot distinguish the formative from the incidental. That cannot tell the story of who it is because it is buried under the noise of everything that ever happened. Psychologist Dan McAdams, who has spent decades studying the relationship between memory and identity, has argued that the self is fundamentally a narrative. A story we tell about our lives that gives them shape, meaning, and direction. That story requires editing. It requires choosing what matters. And choosing what matters requires forgetting what does not. So what if you never forgot anything? The answer, it turns out, is not that you would become smarter or more capable or more fully yourself. The answer is that you would become trapped. In every argument you have ever had. In every version of yourself you have ever been. In every moment that everyone else has had the mercy to let pass. Forgetting is not what happens when your brain fails. Forgetting is what your brain does when it is working perfectly. Every memory that fades is a decision. Every piece of the past that softens and blurs and eventually releases its grip on you is your mind doing something profoundly, quietly, invisibly generous. It is letting you live in the present. Right now, you cannot remember most of what happened to you last Tuesday. You cannot remember most of the conversations you have had this month, or most of the faces you have passed on the street. And the part of you that worries about that, the part that wishes it could hold on to more, that part does not understand what it is asking for. What your brain forgot, it forgot for you. And that, it turns out, is one of the kindest things it has ever done.